Hello and welcome to Center for Victory's podcast of Your Best Day Yet. Here at Center for Victory, we're here to unlock, reinforce, and enrich relationships through personal and professional development. I'm Eric Guy, Chief Victory Officer at the Center for Victory. With me today, a very special guest that I'm very fortunate to interview, Genevieve Paturo. She's going to talk a little bit about herself, but let me give you a little intro to this to pique your interest because it's going to be very interesting. She is a speaker, consultant, and author. She was a TV exec in New York City for 20 years when a little girl's question changed the course of her life and she jumped off the corporate ladder. So that's very interesting right there. So she began delivering pajamas and books to children in shelters, and in 2001 founded Pajama Program, a national nonprofit that has distributed, and tell me if I'm right on this number, 7 million new pajamas and books
It's
to
now
children.
8 million.
It is now 8 million. That is
Going
fantastic.
into the new year. Yeah.
Okay. So with the first time you read that, it's like, wow, that's a lot. You've been on Oprah Today, Good Morning America, Fox and Friends, CNN, O Magazine, Forbes. You have a TED Talk out there. One idea plus human connection equals 7 million pajamas and books. So I guess it should be 8 million now.
Mhm.
And you are the author of a new popular memoir, Purpose, Passion, and Pajamas: How to Transform Your Life, Embrace the Human Connection, and Lead with Meaning. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric.
Is there anything I forgot that you would like to add that you think our audience would like to know?
No, but I want your title. That's a great title. Chief
Yeah.
Victory. What was it?
Chief Victory Officer. Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
And my daughter does a lot of work here with us. We call her our Chief Joy Officer.
Oh, that's even better.
Yeah. So
Good.
she is, because she is a bundle of joy. Um, so I'm going to jump right into that. I've already asked you right before we jumped on here if you'd be interested in coming back because you just seem like one of those folks that have a lot to tell. And, we could all use some inspiration right now with everything
I'd
going
love to
on.
come
So,
back.
so
I know. I'm with you.
you're all about purpose. So just go back to how this started because I was intrigued the first time I read that, like you're done with the corporate ladder from one question. I don't know what that question is. So I'm sure other people are interested. What was that question?
Sure. Well, actually, two questions. First,
Okay.
I wanted to be a corporate executive from when I was, 8, 9, 10 years old. And that's probably because I was the first of four born into a very Italian traditional family, father off the boat, expected to get married and have kids. And I don't know if it was because I was, you know, the oldest of four, and I had three that I was, taking with me and helping and helping my mom with that. I said, okay, I want my career. I want something that's just, something exciting. But I wanted to be in TV. And, there's a character was Mary Tyler Moore played Mary Richards. She was a big executive, a
Yeah.
woman in a man's world, right? And she had all these wonderful things. To me, that was success. So that was what I was pursuing, much to the dismay of my very traditional Italian family. But I did that for 12 years. I bought an apartment. I lived in New York. I went to Manhattan every day, and I worked working in TV. 12 years in, and it was a very exciting life, but it was a workaholic life, but it was exciting. That's what I thought success was. I heard a question in me. So the first question that I want to tell you about is I heard a voice in a quiet moment alone that asked me, if this is the next 30 years of your life, is this enough?
Mm.
And Eric, that really stopped me cold because I was not accustomed to hearing, anything other than my head chatter, what we always hear. I was not meditating. I was not a spiritual person, not even a religious person. But I heard that and it stopped me. And a lot of things came to the surface in those minutes when I sat down to really take stock. And I said, there must be something I was missing. And it must be in the family's tradition of family. And I chose not to get married and have kids up to that point. And I said, maybe I could find a way to bring children into my life because I think I'd love that. And I started reading in emergency shelters at night because I had seen some recent news stories about police and social workers going and taking children out of an unsafe situation from,
Mhm.
a place where they were supposed to be loved and taken care of. And I called the police and asked them where they bring these kids, and they gave me some names of emergency shelters. And I called and asked if I could come and read to the children at night. And I did. And I was excited. I bought all these great children's books. And I went in my business suit. I showed up, and the caregivers led me to this room, which was very bare, tattered carpet, no chairs for adults, just a few little kids' chairs. And I just sat on the floor with my bag of books. I didn't know what to expect. This was not my world. We were middle class, struggling, growing up. So this was so foreign to me. And the kids came in, little kids. Again, they were brought in to a 24-hour safe house to be processed, which is a horrible word. So they
Mhm.
were in clothes that you could tell. In 2 minutes, I could size up the situation. They had been through an ordeal. They were wearing clothes that I don't know how long they've been wearing them for because they were soiled and tight. They were frightened. Some of them had been crying and were crying. They came in and they saw this lady, all dressed in a business suit, sitting on the floor, and they sat with me. And I read story after story. It was quiet. They stared at me. Some of them, like, I could feel they wanted something from me. And I had nothing to give them except story after story. And I did this week after week, different groups of kids, but always this need to help and need from them to get something, to feel something. And it was just, I'd never felt so grounded. And it was an odd feeling for me because usually I was up and running and, on a high from just being a workaholic. And I was grounded and quiet. One night I asked if I could follow to see where they were going to sleep at night. And I did that. And when I stared in this equally bare room, I saw them helping a couple of kids, two or three up on one surface, single cots and futons, and no decoration in the room at all. And they were sleeping in their clothes. And I had this memory surge of my mom putting us to sleep and how different it was and how uplifting and loving, and snacks and laughing and kissing and pulling up the covers. And of course, we had pajama time. We had pajamas on. And that's what stuck out to me, that they were being put to sleep in the clothes they wore. And they were wriggling around, and a couple of them were crying. And I thought, my goodness, how are they supposed to go to sleep? I didn't think I'd go to sleep after that, after seeing this. And as they walked me to the door, I asked, can I bring pajamas next time? And I remember one woman said, that would be lovely. No one thinks of that. So while they had some things for some of the kids to change into, there was no pajamas. That was not even on the list of necessities. So I brought pajamas.
Yeah.
And I read to the children, different group every time. And I read stories for about 40 minutes. And then the last 20 minutes, I wanted to hand out the pajamas, which I started to do. And there was a little girl that came up to my hip. And when I approached her, she pulled away. She just started to walk away, and she was just shaking her head, no, no, no. And I had noticed her sitting there staring at me, just empty eyes, just staring while I was reading. And okay, let her go. I didn't want to push the pajamas on her. I didn't know what was happening. I gave them out to the other kids. All the other kids took them and followed to go to the bedroom. But she was watching me hand them out. So I said, there's something going on here, because she doesn't want to just go to bed, but she's curious. She's watching. She wants something. So I went back over to her with the pajamas, and I said, honey, these are for you. They're pink, and you're wearing pink and purple. And her clothes were so dirty and tight. And she had big sneakers on, I guess, to cover her feet. Someone gave her these big sneakers. Her ponytails were messy. And I said, they're pink, and look, you have pink in your shirt, and they'll fit you. And I held them up, and I said, and they're really soft. Do you want to feel them? Just feel them. And she looked at me, and then she leaned in and she said, what are they? What are pajamas?
Hmm.
And that's when my brain just
Wow.
it was like fireworks going off in there. Like, what it? And I looked at the caregiver, and she mouthed the words to me. She doesn't know what pajamas are. And I
Wow.
had to explain to this little girl that you wear pajamas to go to sleep. And I remember saying it. I didn't even know how I just kept it together. And I gave them to her and she took them. And I was still kneeling there trying to grasp what happened when I saw her peek back out to me from where they brought her to change. And she did put them on and she wanted me to see. And from that moment, Eric, I was just obsessed. I just kept saying, my God, how many of these kids are there? And I just
Uh,
wanted to do something about it. And I had no idea what, and I had no idea what would follow.
how did like walk us through the progression? I mean, how did that even happen? You did that, and then now you're 8 million. I mean, where?
Well, for a long time, many, many months, almost a year, I didn't tell anyone that I was going to the shelter. I didn't
Uh,
tell anyone what I was doing because I knew in me my life was changing. And I was afraid to say out loud what I knew was I want to quit that other thing. But of course, my head was telling me, you have a mortgage, lady. You have bills. What do you think you're doing? You can't just wander around like Santa Claus buying pajamas because you already racked up thousands on your credit card and and I had no answers for myself. I didn't know what this was except a need in me that I had to do this. And I had those phones back then where, as big as a shoebox, and you couldn't bring them to the office. So I was constantly sneaking to take a call because one shelter would tell another shelter, there's this lady walking around with pajamas, call her. And I allowed that. And it was growing. And that's where I wanted to live. That's what was filling me up. So contrary to anything I thought for decades of, even since I was watching Mary Tyler Moore at 10 and turning my back on the Italian tradition of, having a family early in life, and I just couldn't make sense of it. And I knew I was going to get fired if I didn't stop visiting the kids. And so that wasn't an option. And I wasn't so afraid of being fired because I wasn't looking at the practical part.
uh,
So when I thought, let me tell someone, let me see how this sounds, because maybe there's an answer. Maybe somebody will help me. I had a couple of glasses of wine, told a friend who was also a corporate exec, and she just totally knocked me down. What are you doing? What do you think? How are you going to pay your rent? Can't you just do that once in a while? You've worked so hard. I don't understand you. And then I claimed up again for more months.
mhm,
So until I faced my boss, because I knew I would be fired because I was making a mess of a project, I finally told this man that I was dating, because I said, this is the final straw. I'm going to be by myself. And I told him what I was thinking. I met this little girl and this is what I'm doing. I really want to find a way to quit my job, but I don't have any money, whatever. And he said, I think you should go for it. And, and that made me feel like, okay, I'm not crazy. I haven't figured it out, but there's something here that's bigger than a job.
mhm,
And the more people I told, the more support, because it was like everybody felt that pain of that little girl the way I did.
mhm,
And more, we got some big breaks. I did quit. I did have financial issues. It's all in my book. I'm very honest. When I consult and I talk and I speak, I tell people I ruined my credit card, I ruined my credit, but I knew there was something that I had to do. And I learned purpose. I learned human connection. I learned the power of those two things together. I learned that we can be together a voice that moves the world. But it was slow and it was something strange to me until I had to face it. That's the way we are built to change things, to work together, and to know what discover our gift. We all have one. And I didn't think I had one. Nobody ever talked to me about purpose. I thought that was reserved for famous people who were lucky enough. The rest of us just had a job.
Speak into that a little bit more, if you would. Like, a lot of our listeners are listening. We call it your best day yet. I mean, a lot of people tune in to say, like, how do I get that purpose, that edge, that whatever? How do I use my gifts? All those things. So, do you have any tips on how to find your purpose, and more so, what does it change for people when they do it? So I guess there's two
Mhm.
questions.
Well, yes, on my website, you can go right to the top tab and says, here's an exercise to help you discover your purpose. And that
In your website, sorry, I interrupted you.
GenevievePeturo.com, my name.com.
Yep. Okay, we'll
Yep.
put
And
it.
you can see, and I'll tell you right up front, 90 minutes quiet time. You got to do it. You spend 90 minutes scrolling through social media, I bet. Take the 90 minutes. You'll be amazed, especially if you're starting from not knowing anything or thinking you don't know what your purpose is. It'll be eye-opening. You'll discover things about yourself. And I teach slide or jump. I jumped. Some people are jumpers.
Slider jump.
Some people, are not, and that's okay too. But bottom line, you owe it to yourself, and we owe it to each other to share whatever we discover is our purpose here. Each of us has one. Some are similar, some are, nothing like anybody else's. But once you own it, even for 1 hour a week, if you are a banker and you said, you know what, I really want to sing, that's my purpose, I don't know how to make money out of it. Well, maybe you're not going to be the next Adele, but that doesn't mean you can't use your singing voice in a choir. Take some lessons. Even you don't even have to sing for anyone, sing for yourself. You'd be amazed at how that changes everything about you, your self-confidence, how you feel, how you stand, how you talk, the people in your circles when you start talking about what you're doing to sing or to self-improvement. It's an amazing transformation, even if it's an hour a week. And sometimes that grows, and sometimes you can find a way to make that career, financially stable. I never made as much as I probably would have if I stayed in corporate America, but maybe that's not important to you either, because you feel so different and people react to you so differently because it's contagious. And you're also inspiring people to take the chance, especially if you finally, like I finally did, open up about what you had put on the back burner. And I think COVID was a gift in that way to so many of us who thought, I'll just keep on going, I'll just keep on going. And then we had this near-death experience as a world. And how many of us, right, start thinking, I don't really want to do this anymore. I don't like how this is going. And we've taken more chances. More people have taken more chances or are looking for more soulful work, a better way to live.
Does that play anything into, because that was my next question. What's the heart voice connection?
Well, that question that asked me if this is the next 30 years of your life, is this enough? That was my heart. I didn't know it in the moment, but I did feel it here. And I knew it wasn't here. I just didn't know what it was for a while. But we all have that voice, and we hear it when we meditate. People are meditating more and more people are meditating. That voice, people call it your higher self, God, the universe, your heart voice. That's your trueness. When you say point to yourself, right? We point here. Nobody points here. This is not ourself. A lot of times this is our enemy. This is what's limiting us. This is the I don't know what got stuck in here from however little we were. Somebody said one thing and then we think we're not enough. But this is who we are. And this is where the voice that counts is. And it takes practice to listen for it, to ask it to speak up. And it takes patience, practice and patience to recognize it, and then courage to let
Yes.
that be what leads you, because your brain will tell you all the reasons why that's ridiculous. But if you keep letting it lead, there comes a time when there's a switch in your brain, which is, you keep neglecting, isn't used to it, but then it says, well, you know what? I'm really tired of pushing. I'm smart enough, I can help her listen to the other voice. So let me at least help her get to those kids. And your brain sort of switches the role with your heart.
Yeah, it's something that we all should do more of. How have you gone and, and made this where you are able to now have distributed 8 million? Like, how did that happen?
The
Like,
more
how does
people,
it happen?
yeah, it's the human connection. That's as simple as it is. The more people, the more your people, not everybody that I talk to cared as much as some other people. Some people don't and some people do. You just have to find your people. And it's just by being passionate, speaking from your heart. All I did was tell that story. Got to help me because listen to this. Can you believe this? And I would tell them the story. And enough of those people who felt connected to her, I think we all have that part of our heart that has a little hole in it, that we feel her pain because we've felt pain or neglect or something. Whether some people say it's a past life, some people say, when I was little, I felt lonely for whatever reason. But the people who feel that were drawn to getting pajamas to a child because we know what bedtime, we know what pajamas means to tuck these kids in, and the idea that lights out, nothing to hold, not even comfortable and smelly clothes that they've been wearing is not right. They need a hug. And if we can't go and hug every child, the pajamas will carry that message and that love, and they feel that. So if you talk and tell people and share from your heart with your emotion what happened and what your plan is, you will find enough people, I believe it, who will be attracted to you and will attract others. And then before you know it, people start to call and people want to help. And especially if you keep it simple. I kept it simple because that's all I could manage. But in hindsight, it was the best thing I ever did because that's all you have to do. Give me a pair of pajamas and a book. And of course, people go crazy sometimes, and they do a lot more than that. So it's about the human connection. When you're on purpose and you share it, there's no stopping you. It's a miracle. It's unbelievable, the support that comes.
Yeah. So this probably plays into my last question here for you, at least for today. Um, we do a lot with companies. We work with a lot of companies, and the big thing nowadays, and if you look in the news, it's how do I get people in the door? So how do I attract people? But the bigger thing that companies are really struggling with is how do I retain people? And these are typically, we're talking about paying jobs. You're working with a volunteer force, so I'd be interested in your little wisdom nuggets here for the people that we speak to, especially like in nonprofit that are trying to manage volunteers. What would you say? How do you attract and retain those volunteers?
Sure. Well, first, let me just say I was executive director for 20 years, and then I wanted to speak because I found what we're talking about, the power of purpose and human connection, and also creating a legacy for everyone that's working with you. So in order to write my book and speak in all of that, I wanted to pass the baton of executive director. So I did to one of the presidents of our boards in the past, and she's fabulous. So I can always make that introduction. But in growing Pajama Program for the 20 years and dealing with a little staff and a lot of volunteers, I think the key is first to make sure there's something in what their purpose is that aligns with yours. They don't have to be exactly 100% committed to the same heart message or the same purpose that you are, but there has to be something in them, and you want to ask them, what has touched you? Why do you want to do this with us? Why do you want to join us? And if they know why, and they do, they will tell you what happened to them. They will tell you why. They will tell you they have kids and they can't imagine kids don't go to sleep with pajamas. They can tell you what happened to them. They can tell you a lot of secrets about their lives that I was so privileged to hear about why they connected with you. And then you let them lead whatever gift you're giving them, to delegating to them to do with their own heart. And you try not to force them into a list of, you have to do it this way. I believe my greatest gift was to say to them, figure out how it's best to do it in your town and come back to me with your plan. Tell me how you feel authentic, how you want to express to your community your heartfelt message that you want out there about this. And I think if you empower them, the big word, with being able to trust themselves with the baby that you're now sharing, then they become invested. Then it's personal, and everything is personal, like that movie. Everything is personal. And if you allow them in a job or in a volunteer situation to take a piece of that that they feel personally connected to and give it life and share with you why this is how they want to do it, you'll find more times than not that it's probably got a lot of things in there you would never have thought would make it work, and that they know it will work, and it does.
That's fantastic. That is
Sort of a
great.
long answer to your short
No,
question.
no, 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 no.
Sorry.
I actually, that was the most notes I took right there. I think those are actually extremely, extremely good points for anybody. And it doesn't matter whether you're working with volunteers or not. I mean,
Mm.
aligning to that purpose, I think I would just end how we started, and it's with your question. I don't know if you want to add anything to it, but whatever that is for you, the next 30 years, is this enough? That is a good question to ponder right now, especially as we roll in to this new year. I know we'll probably air this the beginning of 2024, but I love that question. Is this enough? And if
Mhm.
not, then we need to start listening.
Yes.
So,
I agree.
anything else you want to add before we end for today?
I'd be happy to brainstorm with anybody who has a question, anybody who's got some, some idea that they're afraid to give voice to. That, I know fear, I know what people are going to think, I know all those things that happen, I know feeling alone and the self-confidence issues and the changing your path midway. I know all that, and I just hope that if I can share that with anyone who's feeling those things and is afraid to take a step, that I can be the cheerleader they might need in that moment. So please contact me. We can talk, even if it's just once. I'm happy to do that, just as a fellow heart voice listener.
Very good. I appreciate it. I do want to get you back on because this is exciting stuff. I can feel my heart going now. And thank you for even just reminding me, probably some of our audience, of our purpose, especially as we get into the holidays. I know some people forget that sometimes, and it's nice to have it um re-engaged, so to speak. And thanks for the inspiration today. That's all for today, folks. We really appreciate you watching, listening, tuning in. You can get more information at centerforvictory.com. And just remember, wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, make this your best day yet. We'll see you soon.